Yummy.
And welcome to another edition of BoozWA. It might sound French, but we're 100% Pacific Northwest. We talk wine, beer, and all things wet in Washington. Here's your hosts.
At what point did you want to be involved in the family business?
Probably pretty early. So as a young kid, you at some point realize that you're going to have to work. And I knew that I was going to have to work when I got older. And so you kind of start looking around like, oh, do I want to be, a marine biologist? Or like, I definitely want to swim with dolphins. And then you kind of start dialing in, what do other people do that like it? And you spend so much time at work, you better find something you like to do. And I looked at both of my parents, and they worked a lot, but they always came home and liked it, and they liked talking about it, and they liked getting back up and going the next day, and they liked taking the family out on a Sunday to a vineyard, and they liked that level of effort and engagement, and it felt worth it to them. And so that's kind of what made me start exploring wine as a career. And then once, wine chooses you. And so once it does, there's no reason to leave, or there hasn't been for me. And so I love it still.
What about for you, Elise?
I think for me, similar. I knew at a young age that this was a really unique opportunity. When you see people who love what they do and who are really good at what they do because they love it, you can't help but be attracted to it, and you can't help but want to be part of the magic. And we are Washington's premier family-owned winery, and family is a huge piece of that. And so for me, I think that's what it was the draw of the opportunity to get to continue a legacy with the people that I love.
People always ask me, because they have businesses they want to pass on to their second generation, like, oh, well, how'd your parents convince you to come back? It's like they didn't suggest, it's all modeling. Can't tell a kid what they want to do.
So when you first went to Washington State University, did you know that when you came out that this was going to be where you were going to be?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And your degree's in marketing?
Mine is business marketing, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it seems like everything has kind of come together pretty easily.
Isn't that incredible?
I think so. I mean, it's a great story to tell, and I love to tell the story, and there's a lot of success, a lot of history to be proud of. It must make it very easy to sell.
I think having a brand that is already trustworthy, and a brand that has such a great reputation, winemakers that have such a great reputation, my father and now Megan is tenured, and they know what they're doing, and they make amazing wines. And then we have our hospitality team and crew here in Richland, and then also Woodinville and Vancouver that have stepped up to represent the wines in the way they should be. So it does make it easy when you have such skilled winemakers.
Is it, they talk about when you take over or you get into a family business, is there pressure?
Yeah, I think so. I think second generations notoriously ruin brands and businesses. So we've been given a really great platform that we just can't mess up. And also the industry has completely changed since Barnard Griffin was started. And so it is kind of navigating that, how do we adapt? How do we stay innovative? Wine doesn't have to be this innovative product. It can really tie into legacy and roots.
But you're both positioned kind of by your demographics. I mean, it seems a perfect time for two young women to be running a family winery.
There's never a bad time to have a female in charge.
After my wife she'll chime in on that one for sure.
And I think to go back to is there pressure? I would say absolutely. I think for me, sometimes I almost feel more pressure from myself, though, because it is such big shoes. And as Megan said, we are very aware that second generation is where things change, because first generation, bootstrapped it up, did it, worked ground up, and now we have this thing that is already on a platform, and so it's keeping it there. And then we have, the amazing gift of we get to look at 3 little girls who are potentially the next. And so that's kind of coming from both sides. For me, I'll just say personally, is that the pressure comes probably more internally than it does externally.
The last 2 or 3 years, some not very flattering headlines about the wine industry and where it's at now and where it's going. What are some of the things that you two from your generation are looking at as like, innovative ways to engage, keep the consumers you have and engage new ones and bring them into the industry?
Yeah, that is the most important, and I think we have a really unique, valuable eyesight and point of view on that, and try to be as tuned in with what millennials specifically want to be drinking, and how they want the experience to go. And so we have 3 tasting rooms now, one in Richland, which is our home base, one in Vancouver, Washington on the new waterfront area, which is beautiful, and then one in a new area in Woodinville, they call it the new schoolhouse, and there's a lot of new development there. And it's really just about being where people want to be and then also providing that experience. So we want somebody to come in, learn a little bit about wine, learn a little bit about our family, and then enjoy a glass of wine. And if they know everything about wine, then great. Then just come enjoy a glass of wine, and have fun.
What trends are you noticing in younger consumers that you guys need to pivot towards?
Yeah, so it's always that question of what's the trend now and should we do it? And those are 2 different questions. And so a couple years ago, we were looking at market research about what are the biggest growing categories in wine, because wine in itself was going down in consumption. And the 2 categories that were growing were canned wine and sparkling wine. And we've been making sparkling wine for a little bit. I have the program where I want it. It's good quality. We don't sell much of it, but what we do sell, we sell it all out. We sell it out all of our front doors. It's not in distribution. And while we'll grow it a little bit, I don't have plans for it to be, nationwide. Whereas cans seemed easily adaptable. You could put good quality wine in a can. There's lots of places that cans belong. And so that seemed like something that we were willing, certainly not first to do, but we were willing to give it a try. And so now we have 3 different wines in cans. We've got our Sauvignon Blanc, our Rosé of Sangiovese, and a Chardonnay. So same quality wine that we put in our glass, we just figured out how to put it in a different shape. So.
And I love one of the many stories I love writing about Barnard Griffin is the Rosé program. And that wine, it just kicks ass.
We have fun making rosé. We've been making that's certainly a trend that we followed 20 some years ago. I always joke that nobody's ever accused, crack it open. Nobody's ever accused Rob of being trendy, and he hit the rosé trend right on the front. Been making it over 20 years. It's a dry rosé. It's killer.
What's the secret sauce behind the rosé? I mean, obviously it's made with Sanjo, but
yeah, good grapes. Secret sauce is to grow rosé to be a rosé, not to grow grapes to be a red wine and then press it off early or add water to it. It has to be intentional from the very beginning. So that means, in this particular example, it means growing it in the shade to protect the color from Sangiovese. Sangiovese is a naturally large cluster, so we are able to combat the major color pressure, which is why it's so vibrant and beautiful. And since we're growing it to be rosé, we can control a higher acid, which gives it that pep and also helps with the color. So.
You talk about pivoting. How did the COVID epidemic set you back?
It wasn't great for any business. We're in the unique position to be in distribution and to be in grocery stores and also be in agriculture. So we got to stay, our production got to stay open as an essential business, because you can't just leave a food product dormant. That's not how it works if you want to have it at the end of the year. And also we were in grocery stores, so that part of the business stayed stable, but obviously, like a lot of other people, we lost all of our, direct-to-consumer and restaurant business, and we love our restaurants. That's a huge part of our program, especially in the national scale, and so now it's all, working with them, and we stayed, obviously, in close contact and trying to help the hospitality industry as a whole recover, and that's been the part that's kind of still a little heart-wrenching, but we will be fine. We are the size that we will be fine. It's the diversity and the smaller ones that you worry about. So,
what is your guys' vision for the future? When your children are at the same position you are today, what is it that you want the business to look like?
great question.
that's one of our next steps, is really kind of getting that, like, what is the 5-year vision? What is the 10-year? What is the 50-year vision? Knowing that we have the third generation here, and hopeful that they will too want to be part of this, and having this be something that's worth coming back to. My vision is, continuing our satellite programs, and continuing our national presence as well.
Your father seems like the type of guy that every day he's got a story to tell.
So one of the things I love about his Dean of Washington wine title is that I think Dean sets the tone for like this level of education and really like teaching people things. And I think that's always been in his heart. But I just think that sets this tone for like bring people in, teach them what you know, and they'll either throw it all away or they'll use it, and together that is what makes wine specifically so interesting.
How strong is your allegiance to Washington State University?
One cool thing that I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about is WSU makes a wine. They put their logo on it. It's just the cougar head. So stay tuned for who might be involved in some of those.
Oh, it's the Wine by Cougars.
It's the Wine by Cougars is the wine club, and we've definitely been a part of that. And Elise and I were, and some other female members of our organization just were in the last one celebrating women in wine in the Wine by Cougars. But then there's also the Cougar wine.
Okay. Breaking news. We love that. Is there something that we didn't talk that you wanted to mention?
There's certain things in this world that we live in now. It's like the faster we can get it, or this person says they're an expert, and there's so many things vying for our attention and our time, and a lot of them are really worthwhile, and a lot of them we buy the thing and we're like, yeah, that was a waste of whatever. And sometimes it's like learning as we go. But I really do think that Barnard Griffin and what Rob and Megan and the team here, it's legacy. They know what they're doing. It's expertise, and like the Dean of Washington Wine, I don't think it's given lightly, because there's a knowledge base there. And so if you're new to wine and this is the podcast you found and you're trying to learn more, or you've been studying and gone all around the world and whatnot, I really think that Barnard Griffin can be and should be one of your tent poles of like, this is what good wine is. And I really encourage you to come out to our tasting rooms, or to grab a bottle, order online. We would love to have the opportunity to share that with you.
It's a great story. Like I say, I love telling it. So what about you, Megan?
Oh, just to piggyback off that, we are a real family making real wine. I think that's rare. It's not a label. Barnard and Griffin are two people, and they're our parents. And we love them very much, and what a gift and what an opportunity to get to make wine for a living. And that's not something I take lightly, and I wake up almost every day grateful that this gets to be what I get to do.